Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to my channel, Do Ministry Gaming, and in this video, I'm going to be doing an Atlas Ascendancy review for the Lira Arthain map zone. Now, this is a video in an ongoing series to do each of the map zones and to go through what the Atlas Ascendancies are for each of the map zones, what they do, and what some of the common strategies are in terms of farming them and pairing them with different watchstones or Atlas mission, master missions, or scarabs and fragments or what have you, map rolls, map device. And so I'll be doing Lira Arthain today. And know that, the strategies that I'm talking about are some of the more common ones that are out there, some of the ones I've seen from other content creators that have worked, some of the ones that I do myself that are working. And so it doesn't cover everything that's out there because that's pretty much impossible to do. And so there are going to be some strategies that people are doing that isn't covered in this video. And that's great. And so if you have one that you think it works well and you want to share it with the community, make sure you leave a comment in the description below. But otherwise, I'll talk about some of the common pairings and some of the common strategies around how people farm Lira Arthain. I'm going to start with the bottom left 4 passives here. These are related to the Heist League mechanic. Okay, and this one here is Secret Stash. Areas have 10% chance to contain a Smuggler's Cache, which is the one that you open and you get some rogue markers and usually a contract along with it. But then Inside Job is really the one that juices it up. Smuggler's Caches in areas have 100% increased chance to drop blueprints, and blueprints that drop in the areas have 10% chance to be fully revealed. Now, Heist has been very popular in the early parts of 3.14. Okay, it's been very profitable as a farming strategy, and so a lot of people are doing it. And so both the rogue markers as well as the blueprints are selling, and especially on TFT. And so this can be very profitable to farm in Lira Arthain for a couple of reasons. The first is by getting more Smuggler's Caches, you're getting more rogue markers, and the rogue markers, like I say, have just been straight up selling for people who just want to farm Heist. But then on top of that, blueprints are actually worth quite a bit. Blueprints are what they're called the Grand Heist, which give the really nice rewards. And so these are always in short supply for the heisters. And so blueprints are worth something in itself. And then the fully revealed ones are worth a lot because it does take a lot to reveal a blueprint in terms of rogue markers and investment. And so when you get a fully revealed one, it is worth a lot to a person who farms Heist. Now, there's not too much to talk about this. Otherwise, there are some watchstone modifiers that you can roll that can combo with the strategy quite well. One of which is on the platinum watchstone. There's something called the Smugglers, which is areas have an increased percent chance to contain a Smuggler's Cache on top of this Secret Stash, right? And so early in the league, like I say, at least in 3.14, rogue markers were selling quite a bit. And so one of the strategies is get as many of these smugglers' caches as possible, get as many rogue markers as possible, and sell those. And in the off chance that you do get those blueprints, then you're really selling them for quite a bit. Some blueprints were selling for like 30, 40C in the first couple of weeks of the league, and are probably still selling for a pretty decent amount right now. And so if you're going to run this, just basically the goal is to spawn as many smugglers' caches as possible. So you can actually force a couple more smugglers' caches to spawn by going to the map device. You can actually craft the Heist mod onto your maps for 6 chaos, which will spawn 2 additional smugglers' caches. Okay, I will say at the time of making this video, which is about the 3rd week of the league, and especially even earlier in the league, this is certainly profitable. It will pay out. Just having 2 additional smuggler caches, just the rogue markers alone, usually gets you pretty close to break even on this. And then, like I say, anytime that you can get, the additional blueprints or any, valuable contracts or anything like that, then you're really making bank because these blueprints can be selling for 30, 40C per earlier in the league. So, this has been working out pretty well in Lira Arthain for a lot of folks. All right, so the next nodes I'll talk about are the 4 up here and the 2 down here. The yellow ones, they are all related to the Blight League mechanic. Okay, so the first one is Spores on the Wind. There's not much to talk about here. Maps found in areas have 5% chance to have an area contains an additional Blight encounter enchantment on them. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Getting one of those maps can be good because it's basically a free Blight encounter. Then the next node is really the important one, Epidemiology. Okay, this one is quite powerful, Blight chests in areas have 100% more chance to contain blighted maps. And on top of that, blighted maps found in areas are anointed. Okay, so Blight has been a very, very popular league mechanic in 3.14. It's been very profitable for those who are doing it. And so there's a lot of people farming Blight maps, but getting the source of the Blight maps is really where they struggle sometimes. And so there's a big premium on blighted maps right now. Red tier blighted maps, at least right now, third week of the league, have been selling for 20C plus. Any red map basically is selling for 20 chaos, and some of them can sell upwards of 30 to 40 if they're higher tier as well. And then on top of that, blighted maps are anointed. And so if you get one with a good anointment, those can sell for even way more because oils can be quite expensive if you get the ones with the good anointments on them. All right, so before I move on to the bottom two notes here, just to talk about how to stack epidemiology even further, there are watchstone modifiers on platinum watchstones with the exotic prefix, which have blight chests in areas have a 15 to 20% chance, increased chance to contain blighted maps or oils. Okay, so if you stack 4 of those, you could be at 80%. And then add on top of that Uncharted Realms, if you have Secrets of those stones, 25% increase watchstone modifier effect. That could be up to 100% increased chance to contain blight maps or oils from chests, just from the watchstones. And then add on top of that, epidemiology gives 100% more chance to contain blighted maps. You're going to be really stacking those blighted maps out of the blight chests. And so that would be the strategy. And if you were to run that as well, I would also recommend running the blight scarabs. If you're going to invest that much into the watchstones as well as spend points into the Atlas passives, you definitely want to run them with blighted scarabs, because if you don't, you're only going to see a blight encounter once every few maps, and that's super inefficient. Okay, by running the blight encounter scarabs, you can force the encounter on every map. And I will tell you, these scarabs are quite expensive right now, but are probably worth it if you did stack it that high, because those blighted maps very easily pay out for the cost of even a rusted blight scarab. Because you just need one map and it'll sell for 20 plus chaos. And these rusted blight scarabs might be like 8 or 10 chaos right now. I don't have the exact number on hand. So I would highly recommend, if you've invested into the strategy, to definitely run the blight scarab every map. All right, and then finally, the bottom two here, immune response. Blight encounters in areas spawn 100% more non-unique monsters, and blight encounters in areas spawn 150% faster. So this one has sort of its own strategy related to it as well. Any strategy where you're stacking the need for a lot of monsters to spawn, like if if there's a delirium mirror or something like that, this is very good. Also impacts of course, the loot explosion at the end of the encounter, and also makes it go faster, right? Sometimes Blight takes a while; it's super inefficient to run, and so this node can be quite good in that sense if used in conjunction with the appropriate sort of combinations. But definitely epidemiology would be the strategy that is more common and more effective. I would say personally, I would prefer that definitely over immune response. But hey, if you have the points, you can run it as well anyway, just to get the additional drops as well as the faster encounters. All right, so on to the right 4 nodes here. These are specific for breach. And probing for weakness is 10% chance to contain a breach, so pretty straightforward there. But flash breach is really the powerful and the important node here. This one gives breaches in areas spawn 10 additional rare monsters, and then breaches open and close 50% faster. Now, this node might seem a little unassuming and not really that good, but this node is actually very good. And the reasons is within a breach itself, the only things that can drop the splinters are the chests, the boss if you get one, and the rare monsters. And so by getting 10 additional rare monsters, you're also getting a ton more breach splinters in the breaches. And early in this league in 3.14, and probably early in any league, breach splinters and breach stones sell for a lot of currency. And one of the reasons is because the Uncharted Realms Atlas Ascendancies, one of them requires you to do all 4 breach stones witness. So everybody pretty much has to do at least the 4 breach stones, assuming you don't fail the invitation afterwards, which is quite a difficult invitation in my opinion. And so breach stones have been selling for a lot. The other reason also is early in the league, the breach uniques also sell for a lot, like the surrender shield from the Ulnatal breach stones, the Zoph's heart from the Zoph's breach stones. You know, Zoph's heart was selling for like 4 exiles early in the league. Surrender shield was selling for 7 or 8 exiles early in the league. And so that also drives up the prices of the breach stones. But not only that, you can actually drop those uniques within the breaches themselves inside the maps. And by adding 10 additional rare monsters, you're going to drastically increase the chance that you're going to drop those uniques as well. Now, it's super rare to get a unique within the A breach, but you can do it, and this just increases the chance. So Flash Breach, very, very strong. And on top of that, if you grab that, you can stack it, right? Of course, with some breach, force a few more breaches in your maps. The first is through Scarabs. I don't have any available to show right now, but the breach Scarabs will add additional breaches to your maps. On top of that, you can also craft breach onto your map device for 2C to get an additional breach. And so, like I say, early in the league, in the first 2 weeks of the league, this was extremely powerful and extremely rewarding. Okay, this was top tier. Now the prices have come off a lot for the breach stones and the breach splinters. That's not to say it's not worth the run anymore, but this was exponentially more powerful in the first couple of weeks than it is now. But it is still very strong and definitely one worth looking into building a strategy around in Lira Arthain. All right, so if you were to go for a flash breach strategy in Lira Arthain, I would highly recommend as well running some watchstones as well. These are, again, platinum watchstones, and there are a number of things you can roll in platinum watchstones related to breach, but the some of the ones around some specific strategies, there are modifiers that allow breaches to have an increased chance to belong to a certain type. Okay, so Chayula or Ulantal or Zoth. And so one of the strategies would be to get 4 watchstones that give you an increased chance to belong to Chayula because Chayula is worth the most. And so your breaches now have increased chance to be Chayula, and you're farming Chayula splinters and Chayula uniques. Early in this particular league, Ulnatal was worth almost as much as Chayula, so you know, getting watchstones that give you Ulnatal chance was almost even better because you're more likely even to get an Ulnatal breach than you are a Chayula breach. But basically, you can target whichever breach type you want. So that is one strategy. The other one is running an unsplintered modifier on watchstones, which is breach splinters have a % chance to drop as entire breach stones in the areas. It's a small percent, but if you stack, the top tier is 0.1%. If you stack 4 of those, 0.4% chance to drop as full breach stones. And so you could stack that kind of strategy as well, along with the fragments and the map device. You can really get a lot of breach synergies going in Lira Arthain. All right, and then the final 6 nodes are related to Bestiary. The first one here is Animal Companion. That's a pretty straightforward Master Mission node, which gives you additional favor for running Einhorn missions. And on top of that, you get a 10% chance to get an additional Einhorn mission when you complete a map. And so that just kind of helps with the Master Mission sustain. But really, if you're in there Arthain farming beasts, natural selection is the one that you're going for. Beasts and areas are more likely to be less common varieties. Okay, so this is the powerful node, and it is quite good if you are farming Bestiary. And you know, you would combo this, of course, with the Einhar Bestiary mission, so you can force it every map. On top of that, if you're out of those, you can also just run straight up Bestiary Scarabs. So having Bestiary on every map in Lira Arthain is not a problem at all. And so every time that you do have the beasts, then they can be less common varieties, which typically sell for more. So that is a good way to farm the beasts. All right, so just like the other strategies, there are some watchstones you can pair with this as particular strategy. These ones are actually titanium watchstones and not platinum watchstones this time. There are a number of bestiary mods you can roll on titanium watchstones. One you might be looking for if you're to run natural selection would be Naturally Lucky. It is a mod that gives you a % chance for red beasts in areas to be less common of 2 varieties. Okay, and you can probably see already how that pairs with natural selection. Natural selection already gives you less common varieties of beasts, and on top of that, your watchstones are going to give you a less common of 2 varieties. So you know, when you combo those, you are really going to get a lot of less common red beasts. But alternatively, you can run some other mods as well. There's one called Flocking, which gives you a % chance to create a copy of beasts captured in the area. So basically percent chance to, double your beast reward. And then also quarry, which is areas contain capital beasts have a percent chance to contain an additional red beast. So you can see how that's valuable because that additional red beast is going to be subject to be natural selection, which is more likely to be less common of two varieties. And then short of those, some of the other ones you can do for watchstones is red beasts and areas have a percent chance to be from a certain area type like the sands or the deeps. So if you're target farming certain beasts, that could be very good, right? So let's say you need a particular beast from the sands. You have a bunch of watchstones that increase the chance that these red beasts come from the sands, and then on top of that, natural selection gives you more likely to be less common than your really target farming less common red beasts from the sands. So that can be a very good strategy as well. And then finally, the last node in Lira Arthain is Mighty Hunter. This one basically just juices up Einhar. So Einhar has 100% increased cooldown recovery rate. Einhar deals 1,000% more damage and remains in the map even after the mission is complete. He basically is just gets juiced up from this node and stays with you the whole map for some additional aid. But really, if you're in Lira Arthain farming beasts, natural selection is the one that you're going for, and it can be for a pretty good strategy. All right, and finally, to go over sort of what I personally prefer to run in this particular zone, I would definitely say Blight is my favorite. Epidemiology, I think, is my opinion the most powerful node on this tree. And the reason is because blighted maps sell for a lot. Like I say, a red blighted map still sells for 25 plus chaos to anywhere up to 40 chaos per map. And also, the staying power of blighted maps is a lot longer than some of the other mechanics in this area. Value of blight maps seem to last longer versus something like Breach. Breach Splinters have already dropped off quite significantly in terms of value, but blighted maps still are holding their value a lot more. And Epidemiology is just very strong. It's just a more multiplier on map drops. So like I mentioned before, you can get up to 100% increase chance to get blighted maps from chests. One thing I didn't mention is the small nodes give additional 20%. So you have 3 of them. That's another 60%. So you can be up to 160% increased chance, to get a blighted map. But then the epidemiology is 100% more. So it actually multiplies that by double there. And so very, very strong. And because of the staying power of the blight maps, I think this is overall just the strongest arm in the tree. Now, the next one I would prefer is the breach one. The breach one, though, is kind of time sensitive. Early in the league, first 2 weeks of the league, breach splinters, the uniques, everything was selling like crazy breach stones. And so this was a lot of value. We're third week in now. I think it's the third week anyway. And the splinters have already come off in price a little bit. And as we go, they're even going to plummet even further. And so this node kind of gets worse over time, but still currently very strong and still sort of my second favorite sort of mechanic in the Lira Arthain. And then my third personal preference is the Smuggler's Caches. Like say early in the league, the rogue markers are very easy to sell. The blueprints are worth a lot. And so this arm here, it's pretty decent to grab early in the league. This, like the breaches, has value drop over time. This is okay for now. But more than anything, I think it's just because I'm ranking the Bestiary last. And it really shouldn't be, but it's a personal preference thing. I just really dislike running Bestiary. I dislike the Bestiary interface, the little book thing. In terms of finding your beasts and like storing them into the orbs and selling them one at a time. I just very much dislike this mechanic. That's not to say it's a bad strategy. There's a lot of people who are making some very good coin farming beasts, especially natural selection. And so a very respectable strategy here, but I just don't like it mechanically, personally to run. And so I don't. But this is all personal opinion, of course. Do whatever works for you, but I quite like the Blight stuff myself, and then the breaches if I were to farm Lira Arthain. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please like and subscribe. Also stream on Twitch Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Times are in the description below. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.